Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy, and welcome to episode 7 of our new series, Think Out Loud. This is where I'm going to do UX design work completely live. Hi, Itan, great to see you. Where I'm going to be doing UX design work completely live because I believe UX education in general is missing. Hey, we have information. Hey, we need a thing. Now you try it. No. What happened in between? Someone tell us. So I am doing live design on YouTube and taking questions from the live audience, or you can ask questions later in the chat. And I'm hoping to show people more of my thought process, approach, how I make decisions so that you can try some of these things as you are learning or improving some of your design skills. Again, you don't have to copy me, but if you find that there's something I'm doing that you like, why not give it a try? It's free. And speaking of free, thank you to the people for whom this is not free. Thank you to the people who are supporting this channel financially, which is totally optional, but always very appreciated since it keeps me in cheesy videos and chocolate chips. So thank you to Anita, Chang, Darren, Ican, Irena, Ivy, Jordan, Michelle, Nikki, Ralitza, Ray, Solomon, Sheer, Farmcat, and Mix Betty. All right. So let me jump into Acture and I'll catch everybody up on where we are because this is episode 7 and we've been designing the same thing. Oh, thank you, I10. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very appreciated. If that's not exploding on the screen already, it will be soon. Oh, thank you so much. Pair character waving his hand. I get the whole description of the thing. Thank you. So let me open up Acture and let me catch everybody up to where we are in this project. I do think this is going to be the last week for this project. So that means starting next Monday, I am going to need a fake but realistic project for me to start again. So you can find, I think over on the deltacx.com/links page, you should be able to find how do you submit, how do you submit a question to Tuesday office hours, how do you submit to Friday reaction stream, and I think there should be how do you submit to Think Out Loud. If you can't find that, send me an email, send me a LinkedIn message. I'm looking for a realistic but fake, or probably fake, hypothetically fake, could be real, or at least realistic project for me to do live to help people learn. So send that in, and maybe I'll be doing yours starting next week because I don't have one yet. Alrighty, Sniffle. Let me open up Acture and flip over to that screen. Yes. Okay, good. And of course, this is not sponsored by Acture. I use Acture because I prefer it. I'm also an Acture trainer. And if you like what you see, you can learn Acture here on the YouTube channel. We have an Acture playlist, and it has over 13 hours of free instructional videos. So check it out. If you don't like Acture, that's fine too. But I am teaching it for free. So, you know, stop complaining. All right, so we had a project sent in by an anonymous person where it was kind of a business or work or project timekeeping system. And it had to have a few different interfaces and different audiences. So there's kind of the worker bee who puts in their time. There is the project manager who puts in the project and how much time each person is allowed to spend. And then there is kind of the project manager or someone above them who is looking possibly at data visualizations so they can see where are we not meeting our estimated time? So see, it says people are failing to complete their work in time scales close to the estimates. So what are staff actually spending their time on? Now, I decided that for this version, we probably wouldn't know that because unfortunately, I have found in working in some projects like this in the past, the more we tell people to granularly report their time, the more they feel micromanaged, the more they feel unhappy with their job, and it might not even answer the real question because the real question is why aren't the time estimates close to the actual worked time? Let's not assume that the problem is the staff are spending their time on the wrong things. So we don't want to build a system that has like a built-in accusation. Instead, we're going to use the data visualizations to help people see where there is a mismatch to the estimated time and the actual worked time so that they can take whatever action they feel is necessary. So we did the worker bee stuff, that was early episodes. We did the project manager stuff, that was early episodes. And now we started last week. So if you're interested, episode 6 was working on this data visualization. I'm going to open it up in my browser so you can see what we built in Actua so far. There we go. That should be Actua so far. Let me make this a little wider so it doesn't look funky. And you can also see the chat room. There you go. Okay, so we built kind of this, and yes, the x-axis is labeled and the y-axis is not labeled. Obviously, there would be numbers since the y-axis is the number of hours. I just got lazy and I didn't put that in. Of course, I would take the time to put that in, but I'm trying to show you more of my thought process behind the design, which means in some cases I'm missing some of the small details because I would fill them in when you're not watching. So yes, I would have the y-axis show hours with appropriate markers. So we have estimated time, we have actual worked time. Last week I checked these colors to make sure that they were colorblind friendly. And down here I wrote myself some notes for things that we might want to build for today, possible final episode. So we have the idea of seeing these graphs by day, week, month, or quarter. And if they're going to be in month, then we have all of the months. Hypothetically, if they picked a different time frame like week, then we would let them pick which week. But I didn't have the prototype changing that because, again, for what I'm teaching you, I'm trying to show the intentions of some of my design, knowing that it would be filled out more if I had time. And of course, I would build it out far enough so that it could be usability tested realistically, so that we could say to someone, okay, you're looking at this report. What do you need to do? And that person can say, oh, wait, I want to pick a date range. And I could go, oh, okay, I have to design a date range. Or, so we'll learn a lot from that kind of usability testing, especially moderated, possibly unmoderated. So again, I would just be building out the prototype to that point. Someone asked me today why I work in Actua, and I just want to mention that quickly. And that is, I choose Actua over all the other ones because I want to build in realistic prototyping as fast as possible. And that way I can bring it to life like I am right here and saying, gee, you know what? You can do all of these, but you can't do a date range. Gee, I wonder if I should build a date range. Is that in scope? Is that out of scope? Do I need to talk to someone about that? So I can bring this to life right away and I can see if using it seems to make sense and work and match what we need to do, match the user's needs and tasks. And then I also look at it and say, can it be simpler? And so I think this is just a better way to go and certainly much faster than trying to link up a bunch of Figma screens. So what we built last week was the idea that you could click on one of the bars and you would be able to see how the time broke down. Hypothetically, maybe you could click on either of these bars and see this because it shows the estimated and the worked. Now, of course, these numbers don't match up. They're all just fake. Obviously, here I have that we estimated, what is that, 130 hours. That's wrong. This says 80. So I guess I would have to more realistically draw that if I wanted to. But somebody in YouTube put a URL in, and now I have to interrupt what I'm doing to erase that because people are spammers. I apologize. And I don't think any of my enforcers are live and online right now. So this is what it looks like behind the scenes for me, everybody. So we can go to the stream and I can dump this person. Thank you for that. And I can also say I10 is a moderator. So if somebody else posts a crap URL like that, I10 can kill them. All right. Thanks, I10. So this was just an idea, and the idea was to put a logo here, not a logo, an icon here to help people understand that, hey, something doesn't match here, you know, to help draw their eye to where the problem is. Now, again, we don't know if the problem is people are working badly or inefficiently or whatever, or the estimated time was poorly estimated or unreasonable. I don't want to make any assumptions on either side, so I don't want to build this into, we better show what everybody's doing at every moment. I-10, you weren't here, but we designed you into this anyway. And we got a little bit farther. Kayleen was here, so we then clicked on Kayleen and we slid it out to where you can have an individual worker graph. And so this would be like, Kayleen, she went over hours. What's she doing? And then kind of have this where you can kind of drill it down to an individual person. And then you can go back to the full graph, and you can also X this out. I think that's as far as we got. So first of all, let me just go in and make my numbers a little bit more realistic so nobody barks at me. So if this is 80, then maybe this is 20, and maybe this is 10. We'll pretend last week's people really overdid it. So maybe we need another one of these for Paul, who was here last week. So we've immortalized him in the design. All right, there you go. Everybody's just working so much. So is it the people, or did the project manager not estimate well? Ooh. All right, so what did I say we wanted to do? What if we want to graph workers against each other? That's really complicated, and I wonder if we would do that. We could do that. I mean, again, you would end up having like a one-drop menu. Again, my initial idea is one-drop menu for one worker and one-drop menu for another worker, and then you just graph that. But would you really put all the workers up at the same point? That's what I don't know. I would need to talk to product and maybe look back at some of our research and figure out, is the maximum number of people we want to graph against each other too? Or do people actually want to graph more people against each other? Graph the whole team. You know, that would be bar chart explosion. So we would have to make sure that that visualization is, everybody say it with me, meaningful, actionable, and helpful. I don't want to rush into building something just because I had an idea or somebody else had an idea. Let's make sure that this makes sense to the target user. So maybe I would go to some of the project managers in the company and say, if you were and probably I would have, or someone would have done this research before, if you needed some reporting on this or data visualizations on this, what do you need to see? So this would probably be something I would ask about rather than rush into building, because it has complexities related to scaling. And I've talked about scaling before. Scaling is the idea where, hey, there's only 2 of these. This looks great. Oh, wait, I need to put 8 here. I need to put 100 here. Oh, wait a minute, this design idea doesn't work once we scale and we have more stuff. This is very common when you have data tables or grids of stuff. People love to do these big grids and like these big things, and then they go, wait, we're gonna have 100 of those. Oh, that may or may not be the way to go. So I'm gonna drop this in the product details and assumptions. I do not know which graphs high-level users need to see, and we will assume that they do not need to graph individuals against each other. So I'm just documenting this as something for this fake project that I'm, I-10, are you still here? If so, can you dump these people? Otherwise, I have to do it again. It's so sad. I don't know why they think, do they really think my audience is so stupid that we're going to click on spam links? It's really sad. That's really, by the way, if that is what your marketing department suggested, you're bad at marketing. Okay. Anybody have any questions while I'm going? Because this might be the last day for this project. Let's see. How does the user choose which project they want to see? Ah, yes, we're looking at project 123 Larry update. How are people going to choose which thing they want to see? We did not put that in here. Now, one might imagine that that should be a drop menu, but at the same time, if our company has hundreds of projects, again, think scaling, then chances are we don't want that. Chances are we do not want that to be the drop list because, again, looks great for 4 things, looks awful for 100 things, and also not necessarily easy to search. So let's think about a paradigm that is easy to search. And in fact, back on our project manager page, because consistency can be good, we had a little thing here where we used Actua's default widget for a predictive search. And I think we could use that here. So I'm going to copy and paste it. And again, I'm not saying that Actua's default widget is necessarily the best, but just for the ease of our building and just to have something kind of preliminary, I'm going to put that here. And for now, I'm just going to kind of line these up over here. They line up nicely, and if it doesn't look good, I'll fix it later, but that's what I'm thinking. And then we, this Actua, what do you want to call it, widget, uses a repeater. So we would need project 1, 2, 3, Larry update. And we actually had these in another repeater, so maybe I can go copy and paste from there. Now, again, I'm not going to take the time to necessarily teach everybody repeaters. Let's see, we had these. So let's put them in. And the numbers might not match up. I'm just going for fake information right now so we can just have the functionality in place. So here we go. So this would be project. Oop, we already have this one. Delete that row. So the idea here would be to have this kind of realistic data set and to be able to manipulate it. Oh, come on, Actua, delete row. There we go. We'll just leave those there for now, but pretend they all had the correct numbers and things like that. So now let's do a quick refresh and take a look. And of course, as I go, if you have any questions, let me know. Hey, we want project 1, 2, 3. Looks like that. We could choose it, and then this comes up. In fact, maybe this isn't here until people choose that. So and let's take this off. We're going to handle this now. How do people choose which project they want to see? So maybe these things aren't visible until... Now, I guess I could group these, but I'm a serial ungrouper. But just to make the groupers out in the audience happy, I will group these, and I will hide them by default. And we'll call this group Data Viz Group. And so we might say by default, nobody sees these, but once somebody makes a selection, then we should show these. So that could be a way to go, unless we, you know what? I'm thinking about things Larry has said. See, this is why I like to build things as I go. I'm thinking about things Larry has said, and now that I think about it, I think that we should show a graph by default. I think that's worth usability testing. Why have people land on a blank page? Maybe we start with whatever is the most recently added project, or we try to default to something that we think these people could be interested in. So let's imagine that this is going to default to the most recently added project in the system. Just to say, now people aren't going to necessarily come to a blank screen. Now you might say, hey Deb, that means they might be coming to a screen that's giving them a report on a project they don't care about. Sure, well then either way, they still have to come here and pick their project. And of course, we probably need a better label here. So instead of enter name, oh come on. Here we go. Instead of enter a name, we could say search for active project. Let's say it says that as the hint text, or we can also put a label here depending upon your approach to these things. So maybe we start with the default most recently entered project. Maybe that's what they want to see, and we saved someone a step. And if that's not what they want to see, they were going to have to search for it anyway if we were thinking, put in a blank field. See hours by project and hours by person. I think we did that. Now, we did not do hours by person across different projects. That might be, some later version of things. And also, if you're in the person graph, you need a way to get back to projects. We did that. So hypothetically, what I would normally do now, since we're kind of winding up here, is I would, at least winding up for this fake project. We'll start another one soon. If anybody's watching live, I would love to get some recommendations of what you think I could do for a future project, just so we have something to build next week. So what I would probably do here is build this out a little bit further. I might do a second graph so that when people choose something else off the list, it flows into this. And in fact, we can flow that in with Actua. So if I want to build out a little bit more realism here, and again, the numbers might not match what I did on the other page. I'm just going fast. Project 234, and we'll call this one Project 456. And we should have a couple more in here. And again, I know these numbers don't match the other page, but it's more about the technique of designing than the other thing. I would normally take more time to go back to the other page and make sure all of my fake numbers match up, but I'm not doing that right now. So let's imagine that, let's see, oh, I just have to ungroup this. I'm a serial ungrouper. Actua, come on. Oh, help. Ungroup. Okay. Hello, Madalena. I'm still busy ungrouping. Okay, so let's take a look at what Actua built here. On text changed. Input text equals input text. Show search results. Search results. Okay, so what about here? This is probably something on here. On set text. Okay, so that's where I've got to build it. Sorry, just having a little Actua moment. So this I'm going to give a name. This will be the project name text. All right, let's see if we can get those working. And this would be set text to set text to item product name, and also set project name to item product name. Okay, oh, it says product name. Yeah, I forgot to change that. Okay, so let's take a look at refreshing this. So we're pretending we're looking at this project. Now, since Madalena is here, let's pretend we want to skip to the Madalena project. Okay, all right, so a couple of things. Now, of course, I didn't pretend the graph changed. I could pretend the graph changed, but notice I did not anticipate well enough some of the width of some of what we would have with our titles. So chances are I'm going to want to move those months or time selections out of the way. So now my question is, where should they go so that it's still contextual and relevant and in a logical spot? And what if I just try moving them down a little bit? Let's see, maybe I can pick them from the outline. So this drop list and this drop list, what if they just move down by a lot? Let's see how that looks. Now, is that going to overlap the other thing? No, it's not going to overlap this. That's good. And also we decided we were making this wider. We can even make it taller. If someone clicks the words week 4, they might as well get the fly out. All right, let's take a look at that. Refresh. So again, if I pick the Madalena project, we've got the Madalena project. These are still here. Now, of course, this legend doesn't totally line up with this. I know some of you who are more pixel perfect than I am would be like, this doesn't line up well. I would probably leave that to a visual designer, or we might have something in our component library or UI kit or design system that says, how do we lay out graphs? So I'm a little less worried about that right now because I don't think it would totally affect usability testing. I'm worried if I move it too far out to the side, it'll look a little disconnected from the chart. I guess I could try moving it in. Yes, Madalena, we are up to the senior people or project manager view, the people who want to see the details. Let's see if I can line all these up. No, Actua's not going to tell me where they line up. Come on, let's try again. There we go, right there. Let's see if that looks or feels a little bit better. Now, that's a little bit more visual design than anything else. And again, you might have preferred it where it was before, but I would normally, in this case, maybe partner up with more of a visual designer because I'm not. And I want to make sure the legend still feels contextual to this. I think if I had dragged it in the opposite direction, it would have felt very distant. So for example, if we had this line up with the second drop list, then that would be here. And that starts to feel a little bit out there. So I'm going to leave it lined up with the first drop list for now, knowing that this is where I would collaborate with a visual designer because I am not a visual designer, or I would check if we have something in our component library or style guide that would help me know how it's best to line these things up. If I were building this prototype out for testing, I probably would make another version of the graph that had a different look to it, different numbers, so that when people picked another project, we would pretend that it would then show those numbers. But again, since this isn't an Actua class, I don't think I'm gonna bother building that out, but that is something that I would build out for usability testing. So that way, if people saw this graph and then they came in and picked a different project, I would show them a different graph. And that way they would have the feeling of being in a realistic data visualization. Yeah, that's something I would change. But again, probably not worth you watching me build that. So I could move on, but I feel like we're towards the end of the project. Madalena, now that you're here, anything you can think of that you think that we should cover or circle back to before we call this a good version 1 that needs a little usability testing so that we can continue? Anybody else who's watching live? Anybody else want us to add anything to this? I know we had this bottom part that someone added later, and it was actually a completely separate suggestion, but surprisingly, it kind of dovetailed into this one well. And it said, imagine that delivery leads were introduced to a new product that displays dashboards of their software team's performance, but they need to set their preferred dashboards up themselves, and the process is confusing. They need to report back to Seaboard on the team performance and assume they're familiar with the metrics. They're at a loss on how to set everything up. They would benefit from the product giving them tips. Okay, so does anybody see what's wrong with this thing that came in anonymously weeks ago, if not months ago? And if you're not seeing it, let me help you out here. Because first of all, the process is confusing. Sounds like you already have something built. So hopefully people are open to this being totally blown out of the water and not just incrementally improved. So check on that. But notice this. So this sounds like a product manager or business analyst is prescribing that the product should have tips on next steps to take after you've seen the dashboard and what they do with the data and how it enables decisions. Normally, if you want to do UX well, we're actually going in the opposite direction of that. We would normally have researched these delivery leads, and we would have spoken to them and maybe had them share their screen and watch their process and be able to find out what do they do with dashboards, what information needs to go on dashboards, and what do they do after dashboards. So remember, there's a very different world between feature-oriented, which we've talked about on this channel before, which is, I think you should just tell people what to do after they see the dashboards. That's feature-oriented. And then there's task-oriented, which is, We met people, we watched people, we know what their task is, we know what we want to do. We're just going to design this so that it does this. We're going to design this so that it enables decisions, so that it has the data that they need. And that way we don't have to have a product that gives people tips or tooltips or suggestions. We will build it for what people actually need. I hope that makes sense to the people who are watching live today, which looks like a small number. I know it is a national holiday in America, so I apologize to people in America. I hope nobody's insulted that I'm broadcasting. I was trying to do an every Monday show, and I recognize many people do have the day off, and I feel work related. So we have a small audience today. So the question is, if people needed to set up a dashboard themselves like this, I think the question is, how would we build that? Now, it probably wouldn't necessarily live on this page. That's the first thing I'm asking myself is, where does this go? If you can build your own dashboard, where does this go? Do you build it right from this page? Do you build it somewhere else and it ends up in a bunch of saved dashboards and then you build it on this page? Madalena says, I think the current project, there's a whole lot to potentially do, especially from a PM point of view, but it would mean extending this project for weeks. Yeah, I can't decide if I just want to keep doing the same project forever. I'm just worried after 7 weeks on the same project that people might lose interest, and it might be better to say, hey, you know what? This is a reasonable alpha or beta or mini version 1, or for some people an MVP, and I would at least want to take this to testing to see if it's going in the right direction and then move on to another project. So if we wanted to have people build a dashboard on the fly, I think another thing that I would do, which is probably why I might not build this today, is because I would probably want to do a little bit of research on how they're building their dashboards now. So when we take a look back at the product details and assumptions, we've got, they were introduced to a new product that displays dashboards of the software team's performance, but they want to set it up themselves and it's confusing. So to me, I don't start designing fixes or changes to that until I have done the research to see why or how it's confusing. Where is this going wrong? And I think that's something that UX teams and practitioners sometimes do wrong, is that they hear from somebody, hey, this isn't going well, can you fix it or make it better? And they just start designing. But let's face it, we don't know what's going wrong here. We don't know why. We don't know what. We only know that people find it confusing. So, okay, the 4 horsemen have arrived: frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. But it's hard for me to start designing without knowing what's confusing. Is choosing which style of visualization confusing? Is it confusing to put in which data it should be or date ranges? So I think I'm going to skip this one too, because I don't even know what I don't even know. So thanks to the person who sent it in. It is interesting, but to me it highlights more of a need for research than going straight into design. If you were on a team where you had this problem and you sent people straight into design, or you sent them into some sort of workshop to guess why people find it confusing, I would probably want to say that's not how this works. So, so looking back at the design, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to add to this before I call it version 1 and kind of wind down this stream. And with, of course, thanks to everybody who's been watching the Think Out Louds. And we are going to continue next week, but I need a project. I don't have something to build. And if I don't have something to build, I am just going to go out to one of those goofy ass job interview design challenges and see if we can find something there that isn't completely realistic. Because we did that in episode 1, and the things there, remember, they were like totally off the charts. Ridiculous. Let me also upload my Actua prototype for anybody who wants to check it out. And you can find that at, it's written up here on the screen, xmi9z4.axshare.com. And that'll get you into all the pages in the prototype. But Yeah, I mean, obviously, this page looks a little naked. It doesn't have a header or footer, and there isn't that much else you can do. But I'm hoping that these graph ideas will give people enough information to then take their next actions. And chances are their next actions will probably have to be to figure out if workers are in the wrong, like they're working too much or the wrong hours or whatever, or if project managers didn't estimate or calculate correctly. Madalena says, can I share a website that we're supposed to work on for my UX bootcamp? You can, but you'll have to Slack it to me because what do you call it? YouTube dumps links, except for these weirdos who've been pasting the spam links. They just put a space in the middle of it. But yeah, if you want to maybe send it on Slack, I'll open that up. We'll take a look, and maybe this will be the start. Or are you saying it's the start of a whole new project? I will go check the Madalena live Slack world. See if you send anything. Anybody else who happens to be watching? I know we have like 10 people watching right now between LinkedIn and YouTube, so it's a little bit of a small audience, smaller than usual. But if you have any ideas for a future project, I'll be starting a new one next week. I might call this one Done for Now. And that would mean I could also flip back to big picture of me while we figure out. Oh, I still have 4 horsemen up. Wah, wah. Hello. Yeah, and if anybody's watching live and they have any questions about anything I've done in the past 7 episodes about this project, and you happen to have watched any of those, I'm happy to take those questions. You can also ask those questions under the episodes in the comments. I answer all the comments personally, so you can certainly ask questions there too. And I assume Madalena is getting me a URL, but I haven't seen anything yet. Now the whole stream is waiting. Tyler says a design system. That doesn't make sense because I'm not a visual designer. I shouldn't be designing a design system. I should be forbidden from designing a design system. You're searching for it. Okay, thanks. Sorry, Tyler. I'm not a visual designer, so this is UX Think Out Loud, not UI Think Out Loud. Anybody else have another suggestion for a realistic, fake, or real project that I should build in the future episodes? I mean, also a design system needs a lot of research. We would have to pretend we did that research. But yeah, I'm not a visual designer, so I'm very the wrong person to do that. Oh my gosh, if you're going into a job interview and they want you to whiteboard a design system, just say no. Nope out of that one, please. Let's see. While Madalena looks, let me tell you about some of the shows that are coming in the coming days. You can also always check let me put this up on the screen, deltacx.com/links also has our show schedule. So you can see what's coming up. But tomorrow we're doing double office hours. Once a month I do 2 office hours. And Madalena says, I don't think the company exists anymore. Oops. That's an oops for sure. So tomorrow I'm doing double office hours. I'm doing 10 a.m. Italy time to capture Europe and many of the Eastern time zones since it was requested by Australians. And then I'll be doing it again at 6:30 p.m. And I have a special guest. I better check with him that he's still up for it. It says Tom Kerwin. I better write to him and make sure he's still up for it. And then you can't miss Wednesday, everybody. Wednesday is 2022 Trends and Predictions. We did it last year with Stephanie and Ben, and they're both going to be back. Madalena says it was a Baroque Portuguese bed for a dog worth 3,000 pounds. And what was the project you had to do around that? I'm going to try to Google that. Can anyone else find that? A Baroque Portuguese dog bed. How do you even start looking for that? I think I want to look for that from a private browser. Baroque Portuguese dog bed. Pet furniture. This is a German website, but it says animal furniture in Baroque. Casa-padrino.de. Could it have been German, Madalena, and not Portuguese? Make the site better. Oh, that was your bootcamp thing? Make the site better without any research or knowledge of what's wrong with it? That's tough. Yeah, I'm seeing Casa Padrino, pet furniture. No, these are $600, 600 euros, but not 3,000 euros. Yeah, so, you know, we could play along with this. Let's see. I could do a quick, this is not the site that Madalena said, but we could take a look at it for fun with our last minutes together. Hold on, let me just arrange the window so that it fits into the screen. Nope, it was in English, and it was a website for luxury pet products. This seems to be in English, even though it seems to be a German company. So let's see, I'll share it, and knowing that this is probably not what you're talking about since you just said they went out of business, but let's see. Okay, so this is not necessarily a site we know or have heard of or know anything about, but let's pretend you've got this site and somebody gives you the marching orders to make this better. Now, first of all, you're going to need to chase down what's going wrong. This is normally done through research. We can certainly look at any existing research the company has done. Sometimes that's surveys, so you might have survey scores or open answers from surveys. You can also talk to customer support and see what kinds of complaints or questions they get. That might point to what's going wrong. But of course, you know, these are a little bit more secondary because they're not directly involving the user. So what you could do is you could spin up an observational remote project where you try to find a certain number of people who shop for these types of things. Some of them could be existing customers of this company, and some of them just fit into the target audience. They had customizable portraits of your pet as an English king. That's fantastic, Madalena. Thank you. So first of all, I wouldn't change anything on this site without knowing what's going wrong. We just don't know. So, you know, we don't want to make changes that don't make sense. However, if we just run our eye on this site quickly, we can see some things that might violate heuristics or the 4 horsemen of bad UX or a couple of other things, and we can see some possible areas of opportunity. So for example, these colors are a bit tough. The pewter color on the black probably doesn't pass color contrast, and I'm not sure whether or not this red on black passes color contrast, so I would be checking for some of these accessibility issues. I also feel like once we are done with the logo, the entire site doesn't really have any branding or mood at all. So I would be talking to this company about maybe improving some of what they're doing with their brand, because this doesn't pass what I usually call the thumb test, which is if you cover their logo with your thumb, what site is this? Could be anybody, completely generic. Another thing that jumps out at me is I don't know what these colored dots mean. Why is this one dark green? Why is this one light green? Why is this one yellow? I don't think they're the swatches of the color that the product comes in, since this product is purple, this one's black, this one's blue. So there seems to be some sort of language here made up of color dots, and I'm not too sure what that means. Now that I'm looking at it again, it seems to mean delivery time, but really those dots were meaningless and confusing, and they might not pass accessibility for color blindness. So be careful about trying to measure with message with color. I think they've also truncated the title too soon, because if almost all of their products start with Pompous by Casa Padrino something, then we never really get to see what the full title of this item is. So these seem to be truncated a little bit short. There's asterisks after every price, which makes me think we're going to be surprised later by something. So let's not surprise people later. Okay, we never find out what the star means. We'll never know. So there is nothing on the bottom that says what the star means. I'm going to imagine we're going to be surprised later by something about the price that isn't going to make us happy. So I would be looking for more clear communication there. Now, again, none of these are necessarily user problems. I'm not claiming that I know these are user problems. I'm saying that these to me look like typical usability issues that I would probably want to improve, but this would be improved based on talking to real customers and finding out what they don't like about the site. Because chances are, if you're being hired to improve a site, something's going wrong. What's going wrong? Very often the company isn't making as much money as they want. That's fine, but we don't know why. We don't know why people are hitting this site and not buying as often as we think. So we have to figure it out. When this says fair shipping costs, my gut feeling is that they're going to be high. So let me see if we can just jump into an article at random. Let's take this one. And let's see if we can learn a little bit more. See, we do have very long names here, and they got truncated really short. So, ornate Baroque dog and cat bed by star designer somebody. Okay, so, okay, and over here is the information. Now notice there's a weird mix of German and English. I think Beschreibung is description, but then we have reviews and video, which are clearly English, and then this is clearly English, and then cookie is clearly English. So there's some inconsistency here for language. Let's make sure I'm on English. It says right here EN. So that seems like nobody tested this. Here is the description. Now, originally, I thought this was the description, and that's all they were going to say, and that's it. Because notice the rest of the description's below the fold. What if people go, ornate Baroque dog? Well, what's it made of? What does it weigh? How do I take care of it? How are you shipping it to me? You know, like there's a whole bunch of things here people don't know. And they have half a chance of finding them out over here, but that's only because they're using this default layout from something that's probably WooCommerce or you know, an out-of-the-box e-commerce system. But is this really the best layout for the information people need to know to be compelled to make that purchase? So again, we would need to learn through research what that information is. So beechwood foam and fabric. That's not a lot of great information. High quality pattern fabric, polyester cotton. Okay, so this is where we still are left with questions. And I always tell people, don't leave people with questions, then they have doubts and you could lose them. So for example, can I wash this? How do I wash this? Is there a removable cover? Can I put that in the laundry? You know, things like that. So I think that because somebody went for the least possible information, there's some missing information here that could help sell this or could make the difference for someone between buying it and not buying it. Now, when it comes to reviews, I often tell small e-commerce websites like this niche e-commerce website we've stumbled on completely by accident. I don't know who these people are. If everything on your site is your brand, like you made these, you probably don't want reviews. Because what if you start getting bad reviews? Do you really want someone to come to your site and see a bunch of one-star reviews for your thing? Now, of course, if you are creating an inferior product, you're going to want to know that, but chances are you're going to know that from customer support. So remember, reviews aren't necessarily necessary. We have to make sure that you have an audience that cares about reviews, and that would be part of their decision-making process. Researching decision-making processes can really help your architects and designers make better decisions. Video, I knew there wasn't going to be one. Hands up, who knew that too? Who knew there wasn't going to be a video there? And who also noticed the page kind of breaking? Did you notice that? It did break. Now it's looking a little better. I hereby confirm that I've read the privacy policy. Oh, you know this is going to be good. And notice all the cookie crap I have on the bottom, which again is bizarrely in English. Accept all, save, and alle ablehnen. Now, I don't know if that's accept them or reject them, so I don't like that. But just in case, let's uncheck some of these. Save. Privacy policy. All right, this is pretty standard, but it's pretty long. This is their privacy policy to buy dog beds. It's a little off-putting. Yeah. It breaks my heart that I couldn't find the initial website. Yes, me too. Oh, you know what? Another problem that I notice here is the information architecture. Fair shipping costs, best price, order discounts, purchase on invoice, contact, exhibition, and sale. How do I get to your products? How do I find all the blue dog beds? How do I find all the beds of a certain size? So basically, they put typical footer stuff in their main navigation, but there isn't an easy way for me to get to the products. Let's go back to the home page. Okay, so this is Harold's. Everything here is Harold's. So well, I mean, good for Harold for designing all this stuff, and some of it is certainly nice. I'm not pooping on the quality or the designs at all. I'm just looking at the website. Now we have a flag that says privacy settings. Didn't we just deal with that? We just dealt with that. We said accept. So why is that still there? Yeah, so remember, if somebody says, also information architecture, y'all, it looks like this was not organized as well as it could be, because we've got chair and seating, chair sets, chairs. Chairs has subcategories, all products, Baroque chairs, luxury chairs. Why aren't chair and seating sets a sub thing of chairs? Why isn't chair sets a sub thing of chairs? How are chair and seating sets different than chair sets? So I think we do have an information architecture problem here. I would probably simplify this and then card sort it just to make sure that it makes sense to the target audience, who obviously is into buying luxury designer furniture. And these also aren't in any particular order. They're not alphabetical, because just when you thought they were alphabetical, there's chests, columns, desks, door, and Harold. So these started out alphabetical and then fell apart. So I don't know what happened there. Yeah, so again, when somebody says fix my website, I can look at it and I can find some common mistakes and I can fix some common mistakes, but those won't necessarily improve conversion or improve sales or improve repeat buyers or some of the things businesses are usually looking for until I speak to real customers and potential customers and target customers and find out where on this website does the disconnect happen? Is it something about the website layout? Is it something about the policies like pricing, tax, shipping? Hey, we never did learn how much it was to ship that dog bed, did we? That's another problem here. I don't know how much it costs to have this shipped. I keep being told fair shipping, but I have not been told how much shipping is. So again, that is a bit of a concern. Many people do want to know how much shipping is up front. We have some fine print here saying excluding shipping. If I add this to the cart, will I learn what shipping costs? Let's go to the cart. shipping net and shipping gross. Okay, so I'm already confused. Let's put in Italy. Shipping net and shipping gross. Okay, so I assume this is the value of the items before taxes. Then here it is with taxes. But then they add tax again. Does anyone understand this? Isn't net a pre-tax number? It looks like they're adding tax twice. Is this just me? Is anybody here? There's like 10 of you here. Does anybody else see this? It looks like I'm being taxed twice. No. Okay, hold on. Then the total is the net total, so it should be 491 plus 139. And then my total taxes. Okay, so I'm not being taxed twice. Didn't it look like I was for a moment there? That could definitely put somebody off. You know, that could definitely be a four horseman moment. I was confused. And when I was confused, I was then kind of disappointed and then frustrated. So I think that there is some unclear communication here about this. This seems a little awkward to me. If this is typical for European websites, then, you know, I'm wrong because I'm used to American websites. But even now that I've lived in Europe for 4 years, this looks a little weird to me. So the shipping cost ended up being $170 on a $600 item. So that's nearly 20%. No? Yes? So 599, sorry, 170 divided by 599. Yeah, looks like 28%. That you know, maybe that's a place where we disconnect. You know, we don't know until we know, and that's where research is important. We don't want to just start guessing at why this site doesn't convert more. I have some hints here just from looking at this and seeing common mistakes, but I won't know until I do that research. So I hope that was fun and interesting and helpful. You know, we can certainly do more of these assessments during the Think Out Loud if you would like. I'm always happy for you to give me a company and we'll take a look at them. And but other than that, I'm hoping you'll send in some design ideas for future possible Think Out Loud projects. Otherwise, we might just do more of these assessments until we come up with a project. All right, so I'm going to flip back to a giant picture of me. And let's do that. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful to some people. And again, I just want to help people get into my head and some of my process and some of what happens when someone says, make my site better or fix my site problems or I'm not selling enough, do something. Okay, you know, I can try to make some changes, but I wouldn't guarantee anybody any particular improvements or increase unless or until I can do research and unless and until they're going to follow all of my suggestions. You know, I'm not going to guarantee anybody any particular results, especially if they're not going to follow my advice. But in general, I don't guarantee any particular results because I don't control your company and I can make your website better. But if your customer support stinks, if your product is bad quality, you know, you can still bury yourself. So I typically don't guarantee any particular results. Madalena says, when we had to work on the website, we were explicitly told to only do research with people who make over £100,000 per year. And we were like, where are we going to find rich folk to talk to us for free? Always a good question. Remember, if you are going to spin up this type of research, I do recommend paying people. Their time is valuable and important, and it's going to help your company make better decisions, better strategies, better initiatives. It's worth it. So if you have to give those people £100 for an hour of their time because that's what they believe the value of their time is, if you want to talk to them, you have to do it. You can't say, help us for free. Why would I help Baroque dog beds for free? You know, I might, but probably not. All right, so I'm going to wrap up for today. Thanks for joining. I hope to see everybody tomorrow for one or both of the office hours. I did get some questions in, so we're going to take a look at those tomorrow. And I really hope to see everybody on Wednesday for snarkily looking at 2022 predictions. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for joining and hanging out and or watching the stream later, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are